Welcome to Late IHP Show with your very own 5D mystic. Let's chit chat a little bit about lovely stories with an Akashic record reader, a lovely Reiki master, lovely channeler, downloader, tarot, oracle cards, you name it. And from the 5D perspective, it's completely different because we have a fields for the energetic imprint, okay? And if you are new, what I'm going to do is bring in the human elements so you can, humanly speaking, understand that when you're a securely attached, non-traumatized, embodied brain, means you own the sense of self, and so you don't lose your child parts and you don't lose any part of you along your spirituality ascension journey. So your light body is the embodied, restorative embodiment, and then you use the bright sides of neuroplasticity. So you keep moving through the light body after light body, the rainbow body, and then to embody even more of that, which is your frequency of equanimity, because you have love, because you got discernment, because you got prefrontal. And that's because you choose to create more self-led relationships and self-led experiences. So being yourself, okay? And it's integrated with food for thought. So when people pray, the angels come to them in human form too, and really all of our stories have had these aspects come up, but people make such a big sensationalization of it that at this point we have those groups who are continuing with the stories 3D, 4D, and they are pseudo-live, and so they don't even notice that the reason they perceive everything so strongly is because they haven't expanded their window of tolerance to window welcome, but really it's because they haven't claimed their inner child yet. For those who instead have their inner child in the forefront and they have a prefrontal, our channeling, downloading, and what we do when it comes to Reiki and Akashic record readings is a way different experience. And so again, in this one moment where I get to be witness to this prayer being answered by a friend of mine who was skeptical, no, who didn't like mystics at all, but that she knew me, and to know that her prayer got answered wasn't something surprising. And so when I learned of 5D collective and angels and ascension, expansion, I also wasn't sure what to expect. And today I can tell you that while ascended masters and those who have specific roles throughout our history, they're not going to be embodied. If someone's channeling them, downloading them, that can make sense to galactic beings too, but the basic angel and the basic spiritual master and that which would be an enlightened one, I'll use that word, they will walk amongst us because it's securely attached, non-traumatized, healthy self-worth people who are living the restorative embodiment, and then they're also spiritual, because obviously scientists, they also live this type of experience. Differences, they'll talk about it as common sense, common courtesy, right? Sciences will talk about it as mathematics and just say, you know, society goes through expansion of its own belief systems, which is accurate. We used to think epilepsy was the wrath of the gods, as Hippocrates told his colleagues, once we find out what it is, you won't call it the wrath of the gods anymore. Today we know there's no demonic possession, that there's people who have the fragment itself. And for example, we know that disorganized attachment is actually a biological paradox, not a pathology. It's a body that has the same ventral vagal state I have, and then the sympathetic with the dorsal vagal. And as Stephen Porges point out, when a person has been in a trauma, which is not the event, but it is the response. Let me find my notes for a minute. He is the one who also mentions how when mobilized, it's probably here, when mobilized, people will make up stories in their head, which is why Pat Ogden says you don't get confused with the somatic narrative and the story. But that's for those of us who are grounded in reality, with securely attached, non-traumatized. So we know our subjective experiences come with sensations, perspectives, and agency. Okay, and so our own self-agency, we own it. And then we realize that, as Stephen Porges points out, when people get triggered into either mobilization, defenses, or shutting down, they will elaborate, they will develop elaborate narratives to make sense of what their body's doing, which equals these physiological states that he hopes therapists will learn about. And that their nervous system is a neuroceptive state that has great advantages in detecting a predator, but is totally compromised in being social. Pat Ogden, she shares with us how when we learn to read the body and track its language, that's the somatic narrative, while the verbal story is secondary to the somatic narrative, because the body really speaks and it cannot be deceived by minds, except for the minds who want to make up stories. And therefore, again, if you have people just telling you that Reiki's bad, yoga's bad, that us speaking words and saying, nope, some are not actually bringing forth the name of God anymore. They're just bringing forth their dogma. And then the groups who follow them around are the same groups who are ignorant and confused because they don't own themselves yet. In fact, they're confused, as childhood charges people that have low self-esteem and direct communication. And they will therefore make rumors about those of us who are mystics, because we read coffee cups or tarot, they've been told that it's bad, or yoga. Okay, so when you make your decisions, hopefully you'll base them upon what truly matters and works, not upon likes or dislikes. Thank you, Sadhguru. And you also want to never think in terms of who is doing better than you or worse than you. The question is, are you doing your best? So when people are doing their best, it's called integration, made visible. It is kindness and compassion. And as Dr. Daniel Siegel points out, this is from him, the road to integration can be incredibly energizing, because what you're doing is helping someone heal, and you're bringing into the world that which we are all meant to be. So the birthright of all people is that kingdom of God within ourselves. Okay, and so trauma is stored in muscles, bones, and tissues. Thank you, Peter Levine. Trauma is something that happens deep in the core of our brain and body. Again, that's Peter Levine. And when we can feel our body as the container, then the emotions and the sensations don't feel as overwhelming. And that's when they are being contained. And now you can be doing personal growth with a good therapist, not by yourself. Because the automatic behaviors, as Bessel van der Kolk points out, is if I want to talk sense to a friend of mine to not marry the wrong person or to get out of their feels, I won't talk sense to them. Life will nudge you, God will nudge you to soar. And God will send you those who will allow you to soar, because those of us who did get lucky, empowered feminines, know exactly why we're lucky. Because when you come with God, Source, Akash Animal Mundi, Jesus, Holy Spirit, the angels, archangels, infinity and beyond, astral travel, you name it, I can't have the short end of the stick. I will know all too well about there being two sides to every coin. No. There's two sides to consciousness that split itself into two. And it's very easy. A heart that recognizes a heart in another heart. You have love and fear. I do too. I get to choose love. Doing Dharma, you get to choose Dharma. Or if you do Karma, it's your 0-8-year-old. The immature version, Cusco. Just look at Cusco and what he does. So people who are spiritual masters, gurus, prophets, yogis, experts, and all of that. As for prophets, it's speaking forth mind and heart of God. God is discerning, equanimous love. They encourage, comfort, challenge, and strengthen. They do go outside of time, so they can predict events of the future, but they know the future is not written, so they tend to, right now, leave it alone. The things that we do tap into, we're able to share them very grounded in reality, and then when you look at how they take place, it's pretty clear. I've seen a bountiful of 5D collectives with their what they speak. Miracles definitely still exist, but we know that it depends on the people, and that's because every person has their own story to write, and so they will have decided who they will encounter, and if they soar, then they will expand. And sometimes that also means meeting things that will bring forth emotions: sadness, anger, fear, surprise, happiness, disgust. And so the word of wisdom, it diffuses conflict and provides clarity. And these spiritual masters, gurus, enlightened ones, they get to not judge anyone based on who they are right now. They get to know that every person has potential, every masculine, to become an empowered masculine and their own empowered feminine, and that we will not neglect anyone just because in this moment they don't have what it takes, meaning that in this moment they're behaving certain ways. So emotionally immature people, they definitely want love, not work, but some will learn how they want to be a heart that lives in recognizing itself in another. And so angels are amongst us because When you're a restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person, you become a somatic empath. And when you're accepting and welcoming and loving all equally, you allow them the opportunity to welcome a shadow part and to therefore then become themselves. But that's with them wanting to integrate. And so that means they own the sense of self. They core the narrative, the relational, and they therefore become a solo self, and they don't spread rumors anymore. And so they know that love is freedom and bondage instead is attachment. So love is unconditional. You do you, I do me. We obviously respect each other's physical boundaries, and that's why you talk. Then as for mental and emotional ones, we don't really need them. When you're a self-agent, you just know how not to take anything personally. And because you're your own authority, you know that nobody owns the word angels, prophets, source, guru, Akash, God, none of that. And that people who want to use dictionaries can keep doing it. But some of us, we don't. We like to have conversations. We have the gist of the words, and then we do understand how dictionaries work. We just don't implement them as the go-to. And that's why we can navigate a lot of different spectrums. But that's to be continued. In the meantime, when you get to have experiences like the ones that I have and realize that angels are amongst us, it's really beautiful. And that God consistently is with us. And Source Akash. And when I got to move into mysticism, I just knew that the smart ones who love know exactly who we are and why we have a good end of the stick. And we always hope all of the ones on that other end of the stick can join us, but we know that it's not our choice. So we'll be presented to each other so that we can choose love. And if some choose fear, then that means in this lifetime they're not ready for it. And there's plenty of other soul age groups, so they don't have to be in the Enlightenment one. And again, we'll be back with more. Have a good one.